Welcome to the Make and Design Podcast. I'm your host, Carina Gardner. On this podcast, we're unraveling the everyday joys and dilemmas of design, making, and business. For makers who want to be designers and for designers who are makers, this is your inside scoop to help you grow your business and bring more creativity to your life. Today, I'm going to talk about the 3 tacky mistakes that I see so often in design. I think you guys are going to like these, and you need to pay attention to see if you're doing these. Because in no way do you want to be that gal with the tacky design. So here are 3 ways we are going to avoid these mistakes so that our design work is clean, professional, and beautiful. The first one is not paying attention to what will happen if your design gets blown up. Very often you see centers that look well, for lack of a better word, phallic. There are other weird things. Once it gets blown up, it looks very like feminine parts, and people are not paying attention to that. And that really is amazingly tacky. So when you blow up your designs, what does it look like? Be paying attention to that, because as it gets bigger, shapes become more prominent. And you want to be very, very careful of that. Okay. So while I design, for the most part, if you're on YouTube with me, I'm like designing my stuff around this size. So it fits on an 8.5 by 11 paper. That way I can blow it up or make it smaller so I can take a look and see, what's really going on. For the most part, you can change things, especially on the inside of flowers, to make it look cleaner or better as you are lifting the size so you can see what's going on there. Okay. Number 2, super tacky. This one is, I feel like this is the one that most people breach the most. And that is overly saturated colors, AKA fluorescent colors, unintentional fluorescent colors. Like they're not trying to do the 80s thing. It just ends up being overly saturated. And a lot of that has to do with where you're putting things in your color picker. If you are in Illustrator or Photoshop and you're in the color picker, you're like way up in the right-hand corner, like way up there. And that is not good. Those colors are true tone colors. And so we have to push them down so they have a little more black in them or a little more white in them, so they're not overly saturated. This mistake I see more often than any other mistake, just overly saturated. And there's a certain amount of vibrancy that happens, especially on your computer screen, if you're paying attention. And very, very often their eyes aren't trained to see it. But you'll sit there, and if you look at it long enough, you'll notice that the color vibrates. It means it is way, way too up in the true tones and overly saturated. Okay. Now, some of you are going to take that and you're going to be like, I'm going to desaturate everything. Just pay attention to color. For sure, have someone else look at it, someone who's trained, who has an eye for those things, because that will make a huge difference. Okay. Number 3. This one is an interesting one. And that is, how do I say this? Your size doesn't make a lot of sense at all. What happens is we get so used to being on the computer that we're not testing our sizes in real life. And so I will find that designers who are producing all these really big designs, they think they're doing an amazing job. And the big sizes do not sell very well. They don't. There are only very limited things you can do with a really big motif. Limited, very limited. So you should be printing off your designs so that you can see what the size and scale are. My last fabric line, which is about to come out in November, Ciao Bella, I printed off every single pattern just in black and white, just to see what was going on. And I could tell I had scaled them up way too big. I ended up going through and scaling them all down, moving all the repeats down, because I knew it would make a ton more sense and way more functional for quilters. So that's what you need to do. You should be printing off your designs. Now, you might be like, but I love large designs. Okay, that's okay. And you can definitely put those in. They're not going to get picked up by a quilting manufacturer, because it's just, unless it is extra, extra special, it is just too difficult. You're going to want to give multiple sizes if you are on digital fabric or trying to sell them a bunch of other ways. Notice how popular like Liberty fabrics are. Notice that their motifs are tiny. super tiny. And then I see that the other way where people just go way too tiny for their entire collection. You've got to have a range of scale. And I've talked about that in mistakes before. But really the key here is don't make everything too big, you guys. Just don't make it too big. All right, I hope you enjoyed this. Let's stay away from tackiness. Let's get better and create better, more professional designs, and your work will do much better, sell better, and have better uses for the marketplace.
Hey, did you know that you can visit me at makeanddesign.com to learn more about this podcast and join my VIP group for weekly freebies? I can't wait to see you there.